hate making anything about race because it almost never has. But the WWE Championship is over 60 years old. But for the first 30 of those years, no black wrestler even touched it. And then if you look at the modern era, there's a recurring theme that's hard to ignore. Whenever a black champion reaches a mountaintop, the one racing to knock them off is almost always Brock Lesnar. It's almost like there's an invisible "in case of black excellence break glass" sign sitting next to Brock Lesnar's locker room. Think about it. In 2019, we had KofiMania. It was one of the most organic, emotional builds in history. A guy who spent 11 years as an ultimate mid-card soldier, reliable, talented, but never the guy, silently becomes the biggest thing in the industry. Kofi Kingston finally won the big one at WrestleMania 35. The image of him celebrating with his kiss is an all-time moment. Defending the title for 6 months, he looked like a legitimate top-tier star. Then, SmackDown moved to Fox. WWE wanted a big mainstream statement for the network premiere. The solution? They sent out Brock Lesnar. Brock ended the 180-day reign of Kofi Kingston in exactly 9 seconds with one F5. Just said, done. So it's like WWE was saying, thanks for keeping the seats warm, but the real star is back. Kofi was immediately shuffled back into the tag team division, never to see the world title picture again. It was a total erasure of 6 months of progress. It was just one off for Kofi. Look at Bobby Lashley. Bobby is a freak of nature and legitimate MMA powerhouse who actually looks like he could hang with Brock Lesnar in a real fight. He won his first WWE champion in 2021 after waiting nearly 20 years to get back to that spot. But his reigns were constantly overshadowed by the Beast. At Elimination Chamber 2022, the booking was almost cruel. Lashley entered the match but was written out with a concussion before he even stepped out of the pod. He wasn't even pinned, he was just removed from the equation so Brock could F5 everyone else and take the title back. Felt like the company didn't want to risk Lashley looking too strong against their favorite prize fighter, so he just deleted him off the match. Then there's the tragedy of Big E's reign, one of the most beloved humans on the locker room. A guy who proved he could be goofy and high energy, but still the powerhouse. When he cashed his Money in the Bank contracts on Raw, it was a massive pop. It felt like a genuine shift in the culture, but just a few months later, at day one, the script flipped again. Brock Lesnar was added to the Fatal 4-Way at the very last minute, but because Roman Reigns caught COVID, instead of Big E overcoming the odds and losing to a full-time rival, Brock Lesnar pinned Big E clean in the middle of the ring. Just like that, another New Day member's dream was snuffed out to facilitate a Brock versus Roman storyline that didn't even need the belt. If you go back further, you see the conditions these black champions were allowed to exist in. For decades, black wrestlers were mostly funneled towards the World Heavyweight Championships. Now, the belt is legendary, but in the WWE hierarchy of the 2000s and 2010s, it was often the B-show title. Ross Simmons made history as the first black world champion in 1992, but that was WCW, and his reign was notoriously booked as an underdog fluke. In WWE, it took until 2002 for Booker T to even get a shot. And we all remember the bitter takes at WrestleMania 19. The storyline was built on Triple H telling Booker that people like him didn't win world titles. Then Triple H hit one pedigree, waited about 30 seconds to make the cover, and still won. It was a moment that told the entire generation of fans exactly where the ceiling was. Booker T later won the big gold as King Booker, but he never held the primary WWE champion. Mark Henry and King Booker eventually had incredible runs with the World Heavyweight title. Mark Henry's Hall of Pain era was arguably some of the best master heel work ever done. But right now, there's a feeling in the air we haven't felt in a long time. An electric kind of hope that comes when a once-in-a-generation athlete finally walks through the curtain. I'm talking, of course, about Oba Femi. If you've been watching NXT or caught his massive debuts in the Royal Rumble, this year, you know exactly what I mean. The guy is 6'6", 310 pounds of pure Nigerian muscle, and he carries himself with the kind of ruler energy that makes you believe he's already won before the bell even rings. For a lot of fans, especially black fans, we've watched decades of what-if scenarios. Oba Femi isn't just another call-up. He's the guy who's supposed to finally break the cycle we've been talking about. The guy who won't just be a transitional champion or a mid-card workhorse, but the guy who actually conquers the final bar. The hype reached a fever pitch during the Rumble when he stood toe-to-toe with Brock Lesnar. It was a visual that looked like two tectonic plates colliding. The crowd wasn't just cheering for a big guy face-off. They were chanting for the future. And with the news that Oba has officially answered Brock's open challenge at WrestleMania 42, the stakes couldn't be higher. There's a moment where Oba Femi has a chance to avenge the ghost of champions past. He has a chance to do what Kofi Kingston, Big E, Bobby Lashley couldn't quite do on the bigger stage. Put the beast down for good and stay on top. But as much as I want to believe the new era is here, There's this nagging feeling in the back of my head. If you spend any time in wrestling forums or listening to discourse lately, you know there's a massive but attached to this match. The fear is that WWE is going to do exactly what they always do. There are a few reasons why that's starting to feel like a real possibility. Firstly, there's too much too soon argument. We've seen this discourse all over Reddit or Twitter. Some people think Oba's still a rookie. He still hasn't really paid his dues on the main roster yet. The worry is that if he pins Brock Lesnar clean in his first ever WrestleMania match, there's nowhere left for him to go. Fans, as you know, are absolutely fickle. They love the clown. But the second someone is pushed as an invincible, a certain segment of the audience starts to turn. WWE might hesitate to give him the God mode push is ailing because they're afraid of the backlash. Then there's a Brock protection problem. We've seen it time and time again. Brock Lesnar is the ultimate attraction. Office still views him as a guy who needs to look like a monster to keep his special event value high. There's a very good chance that a creative team decides then a villain loss for Oba is better than the win. They have him give Brock the fight of his life, maybe even hits a few fall from grace stamps, but ultimately have Brock win the F5 out of nowhere. The idea is that Oba gains respect in defeat, but we've seen how that ends. And respect loss after leads straight to the mid-card feud with wrestlers like R-Truth or The Miz, while the main event scene moves on. And finally, you have to look at the historical context we just went over. For years, the conditions of black champions have been about being the bridge to the next big legend. Is Oba Femi being set up to be the ultimate mountain for Brock to climb one last time? The discourse online is split right down the middle. How the fans say that he must win to prove the company has truly changed, and the other half are already bracing themselves for the 9-second treatment or a dirty loss that stalls his momentum. Oba Femi gives a lot of the black community hope because it looks like the man who can't be stopped. In this business, destiny is usually written by a pen that has spent 20 years favoring the beast. And Oba Femi walks into the same city and actually pins Brock Lesnar. It will be the largest statement WWE has ever made in decades. It will be an official end of the Brock shadow they have with the black champions. But until that record happens, sitting here with my breath held, wondering if we're about to see the ceiling get reinforced one more time.